It's the anti-checker.
We will return to your scheduled programming shortly, or we are currently experiencing technical difficulties.
There you go. What's going on, everybody? Michael J. Crawford, the anti-checker here. Good to see you all today. And I realize this is kind of, let me shrink this down a little bit, maybe, as we that camera's a little off center, but it'll be all right. So the printer is obviously working on something right there. Hopefully that begins to take shape probably around the end of this live stream, but you won't be able to see it today. However, Darth Maul says first in the house, says sup. Dan23 says hello. Ervik Saunders says first, well actually third, but welcome. John Meyer says hi. Jesse Herrick says hi. Bird of Prey 5 is in the house. Kapla Bird, hope you are doing well. Indy Tiger says third, although Indy Tiger is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th. Birdo Prey says he likes this intro. I do too. You know, the Hypno Turd every now and then just needs to make an appearance. Rambling Rattlesnake says howdy. Dan23 says not sure how long I can be here, but I have to show my mom how to order DVDs online. Wow, depending on how old your mom is, that could be quite a challenge. So good luck to you, my friend. Although, you know, maybe you should show your mom the world of digital streaming, like Vudu or something like that. You know, I have a ton of movies through Vudu. I also, of course, subscribe to, you know, Disney Plus. If she likes, especially, you know, and older folks tend to like a lot of the stuff on Disney. And I mean, like, not just the cartoons and, you know, not even the Star Wars and Marvel stuff, but if you look at, they have National Geographic and all their documentaries are on Disney Plus, and a lot of elderly folks love that kind of stuff. So, you know, that might be a good idea. John says live video from the 3D Shipyard, indeed. Hello, and Professor McCoy's Pop Culture Reviews throws a couple of bucks in. Thank you, Professor.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Professor McCoy. I hope you are doing well today. Let's see. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Hey, not Ryan Johnson. Well, could also, yeah, this could be morning, afternoon, or evening. I guess that's about all the choices. Or night. I mean, because evening is technically not night, so you could say good night as well. But, yeah. Greetings, oh great turn of standing. I was going to make a Star Trek joke, but I shran out of puns. That's a bad pun. I mean, just really, really bad. Oh. You see, because when you use a pun, you're supposed to use a word that really sounds like it fits. And shran instead of ran, that's a bit much. I'm just saying. Dan's giving the thumbs up and says, no, my mom likes Marvel Cinematic Universe now. Well, if she likes the Marvel Cinematic Universe, then absolutely subscribe her to Disney Plus. You know, I know that some of the cell phone carriers give you a free year and stuff, so you could do it that way, or, you know, and it's not particularly expensive. But she can watch all the Marvel movies there, and if she wants to try out Star Wars, she can watch all the Star Wars movies, except for Solo. For some reason, Solo's not on there. When I rewatched the entire movie saga, I had to switch over to my Vudu account to watch Solo, and don't know why. But all the other Star Wars movies are there. And of course, National Geographic and the classic Disney tunes and stuff. So yes, and also, and this is another thing that might take her back, depending on how old she is. If she's a little older than me, movies like the Apple Dumpling Gang and stuff like that, as silly as they are classics. Herbie the Love Bug, not the stupid recent one, but the original stuff. Those movies are all there on Disney Plus as well. I seriously think, I know that NBC is getting ready to launch Peacock, and CBS has All Access, and everybody's trying to get their own streaming service going, but it's going to be hard to beat out Disney on this. It really is. And I think that Disney needs to, if Disney keeps pumping out the kind of quality, like if the Marvel shows on Disney end up being as good as The Mandalorian, and we see more programming at that level, Disney's going to crush it. Just the MCU and Star Wars alone, Disney could maintain that network. So I'm hoping that they do. I'm really looking forward to WandaVision and Loki and all that stuff. Unfortunately, these things all take time, and the stupid virus has slowed things down. Abercham says, you're just jealous because you didn't think of it first. Well, I have to say, Abercham, you are a much more enterprising person than I am. See, that's how you do it. That's how you frickin' do it. You use the word properly. God, see? Pianodean says, entering a bird of prey, the music for Bed Life is done. Just got to do the vocals. I'm loving how the music turned out. It was tough to recreate an orchestra. Oh, very cool. I can't wait to hear it. I know Bird is excited. In multiple ways. Be careful, Pianodean. You may not want to visit him. Number one sci-fi is in the house. Says, how about this for a pun? Con, I come over for dinner tonight. See, that's better. That is better. That is better.
Hello, world.
And Professor McCoy with another couple of bucks.
Currently am waiting out looters and rioters.
I'm sorry about that. I'll tell you, I don't know if you guys have seen it, and Thomas is Thomas Potts actually sent this to me, and thank you, Thomas. But there was an incident during this whole protest thing that took place right here in the town that I live in. And this incident involved Rutherford County Sheriffs, that's the county that I live in, and a group of protesters. And let me see. So this is the actual video footage of an actual cop hugging an actual protester. Oh my God, the insanity of it, right? But it gets better. So all these other cops, of course, are holding the line, but then they, you know what, they say, you know what? That's really nice that he did that. Screw it. We're going to be friends. And so they all just start having a big old love-in. It's awesome. This is how you do it. And you see they're shaking hands, they're embracing, and of course, every single one of them will be dead in a couple of weeks from the virus, but this is awesome. All right? That's how you do it. You don't do it by looting and rioting and all that. You do it by, hugs, not drugs. But I'm sorry, Professor McCoy, if you are having to deal with the darker side of these protests. And I will say this, there's another story that Mrs. Antichecker sent me that was really encouraging. And this is what needs to happen, I'm telling you. And I get it. If you are out there protesting because you are genuinely protesting because of what happened, all right? Not these stupid looters and rioters, but you are a genuine protester that simply wants to be heard. I get that, all right? And I support you in that. I support your right to do that. But you and I both know that there are some bad apples in that crowd. There are some people that are going to find, rocks or bottles or whatever to throw at the cops. There are people that are going to destroy property. There are those people in your midst. You guys need to take them down, not the cops. The protesters. And I saw this happen. There was, I don't remember where I think it was in D.C. at one of the protests. A guy started destroying property, and a bunch of other protesters tackled him and took him to the cops. That's how you do it. You absolutely, if you police yourselves and you stop these idiots that are out there trying to cause trouble, because look at the crowd, you'll have 500 people, and there's 10 people in the crowd that are actually doing violent acts. I'm sorry, the other 490 people, take those 10 people down. Take them down. And Lee puts 20 bucks in. Thank you.
Hypnoturd say to donate money. All hail Hypnoturd. He wants to see Bird Chat 4.
Absolutely. And yes, the Hypnoturd does in fact say, give to the Hypnoturd. You must give to the Hypnoturd. Without the Hypnoturd, life is meaningless. You will submit to the Hypnoturd. All hail the Hypnoturd.
Welcome to Karoga.
Hello world, it's me, Bird of Prey 5, and I have to say I am very proud of the fine people at Karoga's Fine University. And yes, it's called Fine University, or FU. And FU, we have a great women's studies program. Just look at this professor educating a woman. Also, I wanted to let you know that Karoga cares about its citizens. Just look at this fine border wall. It's designed to protect the citizens, and there's no way anyone could ever get past this fence. Also, guys, check out my nice Jeep. I just love to drive all around in my Jeep and say hi to the guards around my palace, and also check out the great free housing for Karogan citizens. You know I'm in great shape too. Here's some footage of me driving my trusty Jeep around Karoga and hiking up a hill. I am such an athlete. Oh look, it's my good pal Abergam. Hi Abergam. And did I mention orphans? We have a great work program for the orphans. And the best part is that they can quit anytime they want and go into the private sector. Right? Here's a group quitting right now. I am done, so I'm ending the stream and eating dinner. Too bad Mama Prey will not get to eat tonight. Maybe next week. Free Mama Prey. She's already free.
Oh no, I'm not.
Someone says Thomas Box is going to try to get through that fence, but there's no way it would ever work. Not even a tank could get through our wall. Son of a bitch!
And that look on Bird. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Lee. I do appreciate it. And by the way, while I was playing, Professor McCoy put in another $5 and my father is a master sergeant for the Illinois State Troopers. He's currently at Rockford, Illinois, trying to keep the peace. Pray for him for me. Absolutely, Professor. My thoughts and prayers go with you and your father. I know that this is a difficult time, especially if you're in law enforcement, but absolutely, we are all there. And here's the thing, and I know that, and this is why I'm so frustrated by the situation. What happened to George was wrong, and I get that, right? And a lot of people are angry, and I get that. I would be too. Well, I am, but you know what I'm saying. But so there's this huge swell of emotionalism over this, because this guy was brutally killed on camera by a police officer who, for whatever reason, I'm not assuming his motives. I don't know that the guy was a racist, overzealous, just caught up in the moment. I don't know. I don't care. He took it too far, and a man is dead because of it. All right. Now, here's the thing. If you're protesting, you need to protest an injustice, right? And like, for example, with what we call the Rodney King riots in Los Angeles, the protest was a reaction to an injustice that they perceived because the courts acquitted the police officers that beat Rodney King. Now, I'm not going to argue about the legitimacy of those police officers' actions or not. except to say that I think that the charges they brought against the cops were wrong. They charged them with attempted murder, and they should have charged them with excessive force or aggravated assault, depending on what the laws are in California. But the problem was they charged them with the wrong charge, so they had to acquit. Now, when the acquittal happened, the protests began as a result of that injustice. Now, those protests obviously turned extremely violent, and that's horrible, but that's not what we're talking about here. Here's the problem with these protests. While I truly sympathize with all the people that are genuinely upset, genuinely angry, genuinely feel hurt by this, the injustice of the system is being dealt with in this case. If you look at that officer that committed that brutal act is right now sitting in a jail cell waiting for his hearing, which is a week from yesterday, right? This coming Monday is going to be his preliminary hearing, my understanding is. He is charged with murder. That is the appropriate response to all this, and I am very glad that that is happening. But the problem with some of the protests is that, well, okay, so, they're protesting, can't breathe. I get it. But it's not like the judge just said, oh, slap him on the wrist and let him go. Then the protest would make sense. Right now, the system is actually working. Yes, a man is dead, and that's horrible that happened. But the person responsible for that death is being charged with murder. They're not letting him go. They shouldn't let him go. And I'm glad that the system seems to be working in this case. But I wish there was a way to let the protesters make them understand this, because, you're protesting what exactly? Nightbreeze says good morning. Captain Trek says good morning. Vile Mike says does not like Trek puns, setting phasers to pun. No, I just don't like really, really bad Trek puns, that's all. Chad says at some point everyone needs to just stop screaming and take a damn breath and think for a second. I agree, and that's the problem, is that I certainly do not I certainly understand why people are angry. I do. But we've got the problem with, and this is something that's just very, very difficult to deal with. You've got to let the emotions go for a minute. Because here's the problem, is that emotions on both sides, by the way. There are people, I can't remember who it is, some public official that was just assuming that George was on drugs and that's what killed him and stuff. And it's like, come on. Really? First of all, you don't know. Second of all, do you really want to aggravate these people? What kind of a dick move is that? Pianodean says, when my back is hurting, I take painkiller over. I'd take a painkiller over a hug, unless it's 7 of 9. And Indy says, hugs, not drugs, indeed. Well, because unfortunately in Tennessee, I can't get the drugs that I want. I'm hoping. The problem is that it was something that was in the legislature. I'm sure it got tabled because of all the crap that's been going on with COVID and with this, and now with the protests. But they actually did have it in the legislature to legalize, and I really hope they get back to that. I really hope it happens, because that's the only way that I can deal with my back and knee. And unfortunately, it's not legal here, so I just have to suffer through it and take the medications they're willing to give me that are ineffectual unless I take twice as much as I should. But then I only have half a month's supply, so I have to try to not take it whenever I can. Vile says the problem is the looters and the protesters are not there for the same reasons, obviously. Yes, the looters are a small percentage of people in the crowd, but if the protesters actually actively police themselves, not only would that reduce the violence and the danger to the police, but it would give them such a great reputation. People would finally say, yes, these people are seriously just out there because of a social injustice, not just to take advantage of the situation and create a lot of noise, right? But unfortunately, very few people are doing that. Now, I know that some people said that the person who took the footage of George should have intervened. Now, I don't know. Mrs. Antrecker told me that the person that took the footage was a 17-year-old girl. So what do you expect her to do to a 200-pound cop, right? So that's, I understand why she just took the footage and she did the right thing. But at the same time, if there was a crowd of people there, it would have been nice if somebody had intervened on George's behalf. And I know that people say, well, you can't stop the cops. You know, he's a cop. He might shoot you. Yeah, he might. He absolutely might. But you know what? I would rather die being shot by a crooked cop trying to save the victim than sit back in my comfy chair and die of old age and know that that guy died needlessly. Honestly. And so if I can't say with 100% conviction, but I would like to think that if I happened to be there when that happened, that I would have tried to intervene. And, you know, obviously I wouldn't have tried to punch the cop, but just maybe shove him off of the guy, let them arrest me, fine. But, and when I went to trial, my defense would be I was defending the life of this other person. And if they wanted to lock me up for that, I would go to jail with pride. Okay, I'll give you that one. Another pun on your list you can check off. See, now that's good. That is good. You see, now you're getting it, my friend. Uhura needs to get over this hate of Trek puns. Oh god, that's not, see, Vile, that's bad. That's not a good one. Vile Bank says, for that, for people that don't like Trek puns, I will Kirk you in the Spock. You guys, amateurs. Ted says, have you seen those pictures on the online social media where it's a photo grid of different black Star Trek actors and written across it as Black Lives Matter? I have not. But, you know, that's... And the thing... and Valor donates $5. Thank you.
I got him! Great kid! Don't get cocky.
Seen your title, guess I should give Bob 5 the other $5 as you said nothing to see and should move on. What a shame. Baby Yoda ugly and Auntie is cuter.
Well, I will give you the Auntie is cuter. But look, if you want to donate the $5 to someone other than me, don't give it to Bird of Prey 5. All right, give it to someone who can, you know, who's a good person. You know, like Life with Matthew. Who, by the way, Bird of Prey doesn't realize Life of Matthew may be a Kurogan, but yeah, he's a ringer. Bird just doesn't realize it. But thank you for the $5, Valor. However, you can give it to me. When I say nothing to see here, I mean literally, like, look at this. Okay? But you can listen. I didn't say nothing to hear here. Which doesn't sound right. The cop and Floyd were both employees of the same club. This may have been personal. Really? I don't know about that. The cop and Floyd were both employees of the same... You mean in the past or currently? Like they both had a side job at some nightclub? I didn't know anything. Tell me about that, Bird. Where did you hear that? I went to Google recently, typed in Mandalorians 2, and then pressed the news button, and has lots of articles that Boba Fett could be played by a woman, or a woman is now wearing the armor. Well... I don't know about Boba Fett being a woman would make no sense, because we already know Boba Fett's gender because we've seen young baby Boba, right? And we've seen what he is, and baby Boba is a clone of Jango. So, you know, or Jango Fett. So Jango Unchained is Boba. That's just bad. Anyway, so we know exactly what Boba Fett looks like. And I heard that the actor that played Boba Fett is going to, or Jango Fett is going to come back to play Boba. I hope that's the case. If they have a woman playing Boba, then they'll just have to say, oh, well, I found his armor, and it was in the Sarlacc, and now I wear it. You know, they'd have to do something like that. Vile said the protests are not just about what happened with George. It's the latest tipping point standard operating procedure of racism that exists in this country. I understand that, Vile, and this is something, again, that, you know, is difficult to swallow and take. You have to put your emotions on the table for a minute, all right? So to put the emotions aside, I get it, all right? That every time you see particularly a white cop roughing up a black suspect, All right, it's horrible to see. What we don't really give a crap about is when a cop roughs up a white suspect, when a cop roughs up an Asian suspect, when a cop roughs up a Hispanic suspect. We tend to push those aside and focus in on just when it's black. Now, people say, well, only black people are... No, that's not the case. All right. First of all, there's 700,000 police officers in this country. If they were systemically beating and instituting policies of total racism, there would be a whole lot more going on than what is. What we have is, unfortunately, as we always have in our law enforcement community, is some bad apples and overzealous law enforcement. I don't think that too many people get into law enforcement because they hate people of a certain ethnicity. I think they get into law enforcement because they want to make the world a better place. And Nightbreeze puts in a couple of bucks. Thank you!
Treats for Auntie. Hashtag Mepu. And all hail Hypnoturd.
Yes, indeed.
All hail the Hypnoturd. You must give yourself to the Hypnoturd. The Hypnoturd is love. The Hypnoturd is life. The Hypnoturd is you. Yes, the Hypnoturd is in you. Everybody has a Hypnoturd deep in their bowels. Every now and then the Hypnoturd comes out and says hello. You sit down and the Hypnoturd slides out and you say, "Hi, Hypnoturd," and think of the anti-trekker.
Okay, that was the most disgusting thing I think I've ever said. Thank you, Nightbreeze. Oh, man, that was horrible. And let's see. Where were we? Pianodean DM'd you a rough mix of Bed Life. Very cool. I will check it out, my friend. I'm not going to play right now, but I will check it out. The reason I'm not going to play right now is because I try to do as many live streams as I can without getting copyright strikes, and I know that one will get one for sure. We'll have to fight that one a little bit. But very, very cool. Chrono says, "Hey, Anchor, you doping up? I wish I was." Chrono says, "You can't stop the Star Trek." That is true. DBC, Death by Cop. Well, yeah, that's kind of what the diagnosis would be. Pianodean gets to pick. All right, Pianodean, you get to pick a Super Chat or Uber Chat if you haven't already. WoW is down to Sassy and Auntie now. Well, you know, that always was. Anyone could be Booba or Booba or Boba. You just need a suit. Well, that's the thing. If it's just a suit, then it doesn't matter, right? That's the thing. And so it genuinely just doesn't matter. Let's see. Aberjad says, Booby Fett or Boba... I'm not going to even read that one. Darren says, if KK turns Boba Fett into a woman, then everybody should just say that she is copying Metroid. Well, she would be, probably. But I don't think that they are. I don't think they're going to try to seriously gender bend Boba, except, because we've already had a female Mandalorian. Hell, the Mandalorian, I can never remember the character's name, but the Mandalorian in Season 1, his superior is a female. Since when has established canon mattered to Disney? Well, I don't know. I mean, you could argue that established canon matters. Well, first of all, to Disney is a misstatement. It's actually to Lucasfilm, because Lucasfilm, while owned by Disney, is not the exact same entity. Lucasfilm, but because if you look at Disney as a whole, right, the Marvel Cinematic Universe certainly cares about established canon. They've been doing a pretty good job at maintaining continuity between 20-plus films. And these shows that are coming look like they fit into that continuity. So I don't think that it's a Disney issue. I think it's a Lucasfilm issue. Corona says, I can't hide my emotions. I understand it's very difficult, but we have to. We have to be analytical, because here's the problem. When we get angry and then, anger turns to hate, right? We don't want to go there. And so that's the problem, is that we've got to look at it with cool heads. Now, this cop that ended up killing George absolutely deserves to be rotting in jail, right? I am in no way, shape, or form suggesting otherwise. And any cop that does something like that, right? If it's one thing, I understand police officers' jobs are difficult, and sometimes the police have to get into physical altercations with their suspects, and sometimes those suspects die, right? I get that. That's part of the job. What's not part of the job is crushing a person to death when they're being passive. That's not part of their job description, right? Their job description does not include torture and murder. And so when a cop gets overzealous, for whatever reason it does, and that's the thing, this is why I hate crimes legislation. What's going on in the cop's mind at that moment, as far as whether he's like, yeah, I'm going to get that N-word or something, or, I'm going to get this thug. Doesn't matter! And Valor puts in another $5. Thank you.
Give this to anyone else but Bert? Okay, this is for the cutest dog in the world. In other words, 5 for Auntie. The 7 of 9 super chat.
Ah, the 7 of 9 super chat. Which one? What number is that? I know that's Alexander's favorite.
I'm a better female character than you.
That's wrong. We want. Come on, play.
The board vessel's moving into range.
On screen.
Let's get lost in that magic place all alone now. Drink your fill from my fountain of love, wet your lips. I'm a man, I'm a teaser, I'm a man, well I'm a virgin, I'm a man, I'm a one-night stand, a man, I'm a man, I'm a man, I'm a dream, I'm a dream divine, make love together.
He's dead.
Oh, what a horrible, horrible thing. All right. But thank you so much, Valor. I do appreciate it. Anyway, so yeah, we absolutely have to stop inflaming it by throwing in emotionalism. We have to learn to stop that. And I know it's incredibly painful and difficult to do, because we want, deep down, we viscerally want revenge. We want to get that guy for this horrible injustice and all that. And I get that. But we have to let justice be justice and not revenge. And as soon as we start, we start talking about what more do you want than him to probably rot in jail for a significant percentage of his life? Crow says that cop was horrible and I'm white. Well, like I said, I don't think that there are, most people of every race are not. No, I don't know anybody that's actually defending that cop. And Darth Ball puts in a Forbes link about George Floyd worked the same nightclub but may not known each other owners. That's interesting. Let me see. So this is according to Forbes. George Floyd, black man whose death on Monday sparked ongoing protests, and Derek Chauvin, identified by local media as the officer who was videotaped kneeling on Floyd's neck for minutes shortly before his death, worked at the same nightclub for near Minneapolis 3rd Precinct for a whole year and may have had overlapping shifts, according to the club's owner. It's unclear if the two men knew each other. Maya Santamaria owned El Nuevo Rodeo Club in Minneapolis South Side until selling it just months ago, and confirmed to local media outlets that both Floyd and Siobhan worked as security at the establishment. Makes sense, they were both big guys. Siobhan served as the club's off-duty officer for nearly 17 years, while Floyd worked there for roughly a year in 2019 and did security for around a dozen events, Santamaria told the Associated Press. Santamaria told ABC5 that she does not know if the two ever spoke. And Nightbreeze puts in another couple of bucks. Thank you.
I got him! Great kid! Don't get cocky!
Remember to take the Momo challenge. Host's choice.
I will think of something in just a minute, but let me finish this. Let's see. If the two men had crossed paths during their time at the nightclub, it would probably not have been something they remembered, Santamaria told the Star Tribune, partly because there are often several dozen people working security on popular music nights. But that is an amazing coincidence, right? That's the thing. If that is true, that they worked together for the better part of a year, that is an amazing coincidence to say, oh, but they didn't know each other. Now, here's the thing. And this could be part. I mean, if we're trying to unravel what actually happened here. Actually, let me do this. I'm going to play a super chat and then for Nightbreeze, and then we'll talk. So here's my thinking on this, and if this can be demonstrated, and it would be very difficult to demonstrate, but if this can, this is not good for Derek Chauvin, as far as for his defense. And I think about, this is a story that, there's a story that I've told on this channel once or twice about when I was a military police officer. There was a place on base called the Pistol Palace. And because Fort McClellan, Alabama at the time was the only place you would find Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines all on the same base, every single night fights would break out at the Pistol Palace. And so the military police would have to quickly respond and break up the fight and deal with it, right? And if the call came in and the call said, okay, there's a fight at the Pistol Palace, we'd say, how many, what branch? And they'd say, 3 Army and 2 Navy. We'd like, okay, no problem. We roll up on the place. There's 2 of us in a car. We'd roll up on the place. As soon as we walked in, the fight would stop. We'd start questioning the patrons of the bar, question the people that were involved, and then determine who started the fight, kick them out, let everybody else get back to their drinking, because we really didn't want to throw anybody in the hole unless it was necessary, right? And so that was pretty much a daily thing, right? However, if the call came in, there's a fight at the Pistol Palace, we said, how many, what branch? And they say something like, 2 Army, 3 Marines. Okay, we need 2 more units immediately. And so we would always make sure that we had at least double the number of military police that there were Marines involved, because the Marines were much more aggressive, much tougher, quite frankly. And even though I was an Army guy, I have nothing but respect for the United States Marine Corps, the most badass fighting force on the planet. But if there were Marines involved, we'd want to outnumber them at least 2 to 1, so that we could, win, because they most of the time did decide to attack us when we came in instead of fighting the person they were fighting. We want to make sure that we could restrain them safely. And thank you, Lookout Tower Radio, for £5.
Hey Anti-Trekker, although terrible, there are kids in the UK raped and murdered and groomed, but no one riots over those sort of things. R.I.P.G. Floyd.
And that's the thing. Well, there are horrible crimes that happen all over the world, and this is just, the thing is that this one is so visceral, and the way that it was captured on video. I mean, that's the age we live in, is whatever we can manage to and I think someone said to me recently, racism isn't worse; it's just recorded. Anyway, so back to what I was saying about, okay, so if there are Marines involved in the fight, and I don't mean to dismiss what you were saying, Lookout Tower, but I wanted to finish my thought here before, because, I'm old and thoughts disappear on me. If there are Marines involved, we would always make sure we doubled up on them, because if they did attack us, we wanted to be able to restrain them safely. We did not want to have to resort to extreme violence in order to stop them, because of course we were better armed than the Marines. And so if I was alone and a Marine was coming at me, guess what? That Marine's taking a club to the face, right? Or worst case scenario, a bullet. But if there's a bunch of us and the Marine comes after, we can wrestle him down and cuff him. Now, here's where I'm going with all this. If Derek Chauvin knew who George Floyd was, if Derek Chauvin recognized him as that big badass bouncer that used to work at the club, he may have used more force than what the situation would have called for, because he was afraid of him, because he knew what he was capable of doing. That goes against Derek Chauvin's case, though, because Floyd, from all accounts that I could get, was not resisting arrest. And so basically, Floyd is dead. Assuming what I'm talking about is true, Floyd is dead because Chauvin knew what he was capable of, not what he was doing. He wasn't reacting to what Floyd was actually doing. He was reacting to what he knew he could do. That is bad police work at the core. And so if that's the situation, then I think that Derek will be rotting in jail for some time. So that's my analysis of that. Thank you, though, for the article. I truly do appreciate it, Darth Maul. If Boba Fett were to be played by a woman, would they have to change the spelling of Boba to Fett, F-E-T-T-E? I hope not. That would be really, really stupid. And my goodness, am I far behind. Let's see. Pianodean says, one of the cops that sat back and watched was Asian. That blows my mind. You know what? Here's the thing. I don't think it was... I know that a lot of people want to say it was. I don't think it was racially motivated. Especially knowing what we know about them both working at the bar together. I don't think it was racially motivated. I think that he knew what Floyd was capable of and acted proactively, completely inappropriately. Alexander says, hi, do we have someone here living near the Lone Tree, Colorado? I don't know. Google news search, George Floyd and cop worked at the same club. Got it already. Thank you, Bird. In the UK, people went to the American Embassy in London to protest. What happened? Yep. And I understand protesting what happened for a day, maybe. But, like I said, the system is indeed working. Chauvin is in jail. Hugh will regret Picard. Hugh is dead, and so is Picard. By the way, Asian Muslim wife born in the USSR is the best choice. I was shocked you didn't start with that, but welcome, Alexander. Pianodean says, let me go to the website and pick one. Not sure why. Max, to the pick a super chat. All right, so yeah, make sure you put at Anti-Trigger in, though, because I almost missed that one, Piano Dean. In the Thin Blue Line, police communities, the police unions, and their supporters and apologists most publicly denounce evil behavior of the rogue killer police officers. I have not seen the Thin Blue Line. KK really likes those moments when the badass removes their helmet and reveal they're a female. She's already done this in Solo, I'm told. Yes, she did do that in Solo, and it was a complete... it was stupid, honestly, because you could tell... Emphas Nest, you could tell Emphas Nest was played by a male actor until that scene. And so that's the stupid thing. Emphas Nest had a male body until that scene, and then she took off her helmet. Chrono says, grrr! Shakes fist, not sure why. When I get angry, I'm very efficient. Okay. I disagree, Alexander. I've seen you angry. You're not efficient. Nobody is. When you're angry, you lose control. Phantom Menace says, what do you think of the SpaceX successful launch? Is this a big thing? Musk is probably working on the next phase because as far as I know, he's not announced the next step. Well, I do think it's a cool thing. I love the look of the capsule. I mean, it actually looks like a spaceship as opposed to, if you look at the capsules from missions prior, it just looks like a cluster of wires and buttons. But no, I think it's very cool. I hope that it continues. I want to see colonization of the moon, honestly. So hopefully SpaceX gets us going. Darren says, the image of him on the guy's neck reminded me of a picture of someone who just bagged a deer. Well, that's the move that he was doing is an actual move, but it's something you only use on someone who is resisting. You don't use that on a passive suspect. Doomcock, hear the rumors that they try to take Star Wars away from KK. She will burn it all down. Oh, I understand that but she's on her way out. And she can do what damage she can do. But I'm sorry, Star Wars is not going to hit a low point lower than The Last Jedi. I don't think that's even possible at this point. So Kathleen Kennedy has already left her mark on Star Wars. And when she's gone, good riddance. Hope you're well and safe. Hope their little Mrs. Trekker is safe. Yes, we are fine. Our neighborhood is completely unaffected. Downtown Murfreesboro did have some protests, but I played some video footage earlier, Darth Revan, and which is really cool. The Rutherford County Sheriff, which is our local law enforcement here, and the protesters were literally hugging it out in the town square. It was beautiful. Darth Maul says, when the cop's lawyer says his client cannot get a fair trial due to what we're witnessing, will he get a trial? Yes, he will. Because of course they're going to try to say that to try and poison the well, but it's not like, here's the thing, it's not like the judge is going to go, you're right, case dismissed. It doesn't work that way. It will be difficult to find a truly unbiased jury, I'm not going to lie. That's going to be the biggest challenge of this trial, is to find a truly unbiased jury, but it can be done. Here's the thing. It's one thing to, like I've seen bits and pieces of the video. I haven't watched the entire 10-minute video. But if they were calling me in to be a juror on that trial, could I serve as a juror? Yes, I could go in and listen to here's what the charges are. Here's what he's accused of. Here's the evidence. Is person X guilty of crime? Why? If the answer is yes, then you vote guilty. If the answer is no, you vote not guilty. I could acquit him if they demonstrated that was the appropriate response. So I think I could be a juror. I am not going to say that the man is guilty until proven innocent. I want to see where the evidence leads. But, and so just seeing the video clip is only part of the story. But I do think that, from what I've seen of the video clip, it's going to be pretty darn hard to defend against that. Phantom says, actually, in some parts of the world, torture and murder are part of the cop's job. Yes, but not in this one, Phantom. That's the point. Pianodean says, how about feces and lorehead? Is that a mega chat? It is, but you know what? For you, Pianodean, I will let it slide if I can find it. Let me see. No, that's not it. There it is.
That's great.
Find the other one.
Spinning Spock has space dyslexia. Next on Sick Sad World.
Laura, this sucks. Let's go get some money.
Hi. I'm Feces. This is Lorehead. Can we have some money?
Feces? Loreface? What kind of names are those?
My name is Lorehead, sir. Lorehead. Like, my head is full of lore. Get it?
Yeah. And I'm Feces. Like poop.
Anyway, boys, I sure could use a hand from a couple of strong young lads.
Okay.
You see, I've been stuck in this dang old hospital bed for nigh about a decade now, and I can't adjust it quite right. Can you boys reach that lever under the bed?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's it. Just give it a nice hard yank.
Who said yank?
Yeah.
Hey, baby, come to Lorehead.
Laura, what are you doing with that lever? Come on, man, I want to turn.
Son of a bitch! You stupid kids, you don't ever listen. What the hell am I supposed to do now?
I don't know.
Damn it.
The classics. Let's see, where were we? Krona says, I'm not a Vulcan! Okay. I see Yosef is in the house, says, an early stream today, I'm here. Good to see you, Yosef. Hope all is well in Slovakia. It was a pretty fire when they lighted at the police station. Alexander, please don't say things like that. Hello there! Hey, Sci-Fi says, Dan23 says, new canon Star Wars novels Aftermath trilogy. Jawas found Boba Fett armor in the Sarlacc pit, and they sold it to someone, Cobb Vann, who became sheriff of Tatooine. Okay. So yeah, I could see that. But if they bring in Boba Fett, the original Boba Fett, into the Mandalorian, which I've heard rumors that they might do that, then that's going to throw that out the window. Have you heard of Lore Runner and his Rumoration Sandchecker? He released his weekly DS9 Rumoration today. It was coincidentally timely. It was a great series. I have heard of Lore Runner, but I don't know that particular series. Rum, however you say that. I'm losing my mind. Fandom Menace says, I heard something is going on maybe with India and China, but I can't figure out what, if anything is going on, either an invasion or border wars. I can't really confirm either one. Yeah, I heard a little something about that, but it sounds like information is scarce. Jeff says, are you Frank Durbin now? No. Damn it, I'm always late. Well, that's better than... No, it's not. Never mind. Just to be clear, in the Aftermath trilogy is a series of 3 Star Wars novels, I think. Each one has the word Aftermath written on it. I remember seeing a book from it. I don't read the novels, obviously. But here's the problem, and this is why, just because it's in a novel and they say it's canon doesn't mean it's canon. They say that so you'll buy the book. That is it. All right? It is not canon, because here's what'll happen. They bring in Boba Fett in the show, and they will make no reference whatsoever to what happened in Aftermath, right? So it's not canon. I'm sorry. And don't get me wrong, Dan, I don't fault you if you read the books. I'm sure they're wonderful, and if you enjoy them, that's the important thing. But I would put more stock in the idea that Boba Fett is coming back being played by the original actor than I would that they simply are making Boba Fett a woman. Is Mrs. Antrigger okay? Give her a hug for us, from us. Maybe they had beef, and maybe they had beef, and cop hated George. There was peaceful protest here, but the route was manned by armed police just in case. Yeah, well, obviously you need the armed police out there, because when things get out of control, you got to have the police on the scene. But yes, Mrs. Antrigger, she's all right. Yes, she is very, very distraught over what happened, which is completely understandable, but she is okay. And I will pass that along, Darth Revan. I also heard the guy did porn allegedly with one of the cops or something. I don't know the full story if that's true. I've not heard anything like that, but we did confirm, according to Forbes, they worked at the same nightclub for about a year. Chronos says, we have heard this story before. Not sure what story you're referring to specifically, because I'm so far behind. Nightbreeze says, most Marines I have met fight for fun. Oh, yeah, that story, yes. The more the merrier. That is true, and that's why we would always double up on them, so that we wouldn't have to, deal with that. Wow, you can't lose weight, Andy Checker. Wow, you can lose thought, Andy Checker. Shivers. Yeah. Okay. But there's a real problem about black people targeted by the police. Yes, Alexander, but that doesn't mean burning down the police station is a good thing. That's why I don't want comments like that. I truly do not. All right, so I understand if you want, and there's a genuine injustice there, and we can talk about that, which we have been. But if you start saying that the violence is good, I will shut down every comment you say like that, and I will tell my moderators to do the same. I do not want anybody encouraging violence on this channel, period. All right. And I know, Alexander, you're a nice guy, and I'm not trying to pick on you, but that comment you said about the police station, I'm not going to let that fly. All right. You're not old man, you're ancient to God. The media and the celebrities are not helping with the riots. That is very true. The media loves it because it gives them something to do. To quote Chief O'Brien, more security, transporter room 4, more security, more security. Yes. Did you ever think about the fact that the Keymaster gets locked out of at least 3 times? Yes, I think it's hilarious. It's a wonderful bit of art. That's the brilliant writing of Ghostbusters, is the guy who is the Keymaster is constantly locking himself out of his own apartment. No problem, Bob. Okay. Bob Mike says, I think it's true. I don't think that racism is actually worse. It just went underground and has been brought back to the surface, and it really got better. Just my opinion. I do think it's gotten better, Bob Mike. And I understand. You see, here's the problem. We have different perspectives on things, but keep in mind, I grew up on the same coast as you, right? I'm from California originally, Bay Area. I know not Southern California, but California nonetheless. I also lived in Portland, Oregon for some 20-odd years. That's where I met Mrs. Auntie Trekker, beautiful place and all that. And like most people, got used to a certain level of racism in the world, right? I understood, yes, this is how it is. Then we moved to Tennessee, and something strange happened. We, for the first time in our lives, lived in an area where us being in an interracial relationship was not a negative. That very few people would, I mean, yes, you will always get the occasional random person who will be like looking at you weird, but it's extremely rare here compared to when we were living in the Northwest and in California. In California, we were straight up harassed by the police on a regular basis. Every time we would be driving, I used to do a paper route, and every single night we'd be driving down the street, literally throwing papers out of our car to doorsteps and getting pulled over by the cops every single night. Were we pulled over because we were throwing newspapers? No, we were pulled over because he thought that she was a hooker and I was her customer, and it was absolutely mind-numbing. And so it's like, officer, can you not see the newspapers flying out of the car? Can you not see the stack of newspapers in the back seat? Are you that dumb? And so, but then we move here, and the police don't harass us. We moved here, and in fact, the police are helpful and kind. And, and that's something that's been shocking for both me and Mrs. Auntie Trekker. And so I do think it's getting better. It's just not getting better where you are. And I'm not saying that I'm not implying anything about you, Vile Mike. I'm saying that California, the West Coast in general, the North, as people in the South would call it, the non-Southern United States. You see, the problem is that most of the more liberal parts of this country turn up their nose at the American South and say, oh, what a bunch of rednecks and hicks. They're all a bunch of racists. When the real racism is sitting right where they are. The real racism is not in the American South anymore. And so, the reason I say overall it's gotten better is because, of course, you go back 50 years, racism in the American South was downright scary, right? But here's the difference. The South was forced to deal with it. The South was the whole integration thing, and all that, it became a massive issue. People fought, people died in the name of equal rights. And when it finally happened, the South confronted it, the South dealt with it, and now the South is healing from it. Guess what? Everywhere else, they never had a problem, as far as they were concerned. So they haven't gotten any better. They're still living like it is the 60s. And so, guess where schools are segregated? everywhere except the South. So don't talk to me about how, a bunch of rednecks in the South, because the South is the only part of the country that's significantly changed for the better. But I don't mean to go on a diatribe, Bile. This is certainly not an attack against you. But I do think that the problem is that the rest of the country now needs to catch up with the South. I've always wondered, but why does the different branches of the military dislike each other? My brother called Marines jarheads, what he called while they called him a treadhead, for example. Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, because Marines are stupid, Air Force is lazy, Navy is a bunch of gay dudes, and, of course, the Army kicks ass. That's the way it works if you're in the Army. I'm sure that Darren could say something mean about everybody except the Navy. That's just... But here's the thing, and this is what people don't understand. There's a certain brotherhood between the branches of the military that transcends that kind of thing. Yes, we will always be insulting each other. We will always be talking about how they suck and we rock. But there is no person in the world I would rather have on my side in a fight than a Marine. There is no support in the world that I would rather have flying overhead than the United States Air Force. And, the Navy's there too. So it's awesome. We all have this brotherhood that is unlike anything else, that transcends just about any other kind of relationship. But with that comes a certain level of rivalry, and that's actually quite fun. It doesn't matter if racially motivated or not. People think it was racially motivated. Justice not only has to be done, it has to be perceived to be done. But that's the problem. There are some people that would not be happy unless you literally took Derek Chauvin and hung him from a tree, right? That ain't gonna happen. Sorry, people, ain't gonna happen. So got to get past that. The first time I saw the Apollo capsule up close, I thought, man, I've seen bathtubs bigger than that. Yeah. Can I protest on your lawn? If you want. Don't know why you would. Tim says, just to shred a lighter note on the protesting in Miami, Florida, the police took a knee and interacted with the crowd. There was hugging and tears for everyone. It's the coolest thing. Yeah, and Tim, I don't know if you saw it, but I showed something similar to that happened right here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, where I live. This is the actual footage of it, where the cops and the protesters were literally hugging it out, shaking hands, having a good time. And, look at this. And we're not just talking about some public relations. Look at these guys. These are freaking bubbas, right? And I'm not saying that to be insulting. This is the South. These are Southern cops. Every one of them has had a healthy dose of fried chicken, right? And, you look at the way that they're acting with this crowd is not what you would expect. All right? And I love to see that. Darth says, found a picture of my great-grandmother. That's cool. Random, but very cool. Tim says, I bet Bernard Prey's still wearing his Trek pants. Oh, that's all he ever... It's actually a diaper. You need to read faster. Sorry, Kronos. Kronos says, is that coffee you're drinking? It is. Robert says, since Elon Musk is supposed to be such an environmentalist with a SpaceX program, then how much pollution is he adding to the Earth? Seems hypocritical to me. Well, he's also basically trying to make cleaner spaceships. That's why the capsule, the first and second stage actually lands on a recovery ship as opposed to just being discarded, which is what they did with the Apollos and stuff. And Cronus says, don't be sorry. How'd you know I was going to say sorry? Because you're the one that says I need to read faster. Frank Drebin, from Police Squad. Oh, yeah, Frank Drebin. Detective Lieutenant, Police Squad. You're telling me nothing to see here. Move along, yes. Well, whenever I do park, I do actually hit garbage cans everywhere I go. Alexander says, I really need to find someone close to Lone Tree, Colorado. I've never been to Lone Tree, Colorado. I don't know anything about it. So if anybody's from Lone Tree, Colorado or nearby, send a message to Alexander. He's looking for you. And Christy Rand puts in a couple of bucks. Thank you.
I got him! Great hit! Don't get cocky.
37 likes. Hail aloha all.
Hello and aloha, my friend. I didn't know I had people in Hawaii, so very good to see you. And that's just, I think, a message from Amazon telling me that resin is arriving today. All right, so let's lighten the mood a bit. When SpaceX returns, how about we all wear ape costumes? Oh my God, that would be hilarious. I would, that would be absolutely the best thing in the world would be if they landed like, I don't know how the capsule lands. Like, I don't know if it lands similar to the recovery modules that they got on the ship, so it literally lands, or if it's a splashdown landing. I don't know. But yes, whoever is in charge of the pickup for it, they need to have like the entire crew be wearing 8 masks. that would be so funny. Have you seen pics of the murder cop, soon to be ex-wife, former Miss Minnesota? She might not be that hot to you, Checker, but not all of us have a Mrs. Checker. I've not seen pictures of murder cop's soon to be ex-wife, but I'm glad that she is soon to be his ex-wife. And I mean, this guy, yeah, he ruined his life, and deservedly so. Post Canada said, we don't have Fruity Pebbles here. I need to import them from the USA. Interesting. I didn't know about that. When can you order them on Amazon, Alexander? You can't lose your mind. You must have one to lose. I speak from experience. That's true. Revit says, Boba and Sabine Wren and Mando with Ashoka. It could be a good fight. Maybe Boba is after Baby Yoda in the armor. Think about Baby Jedi and Mandalorian steel and bounty hunter. I could see, like, if Boba was hired to retrieve the child, that could actually make something interesting. But as far as Mando with Ahsoka, unnecessary. You have Cara Dune with Mando, and so I think that would be really badass. So what time do you work this week? Sci-Fi Sith, I work in approximately 1 hour. Wait, I'm white? So you like leftists? I like everybody, Kronos. You don't have to be a right-winger or a centrist or a left-winger for me to like you. You just have to not be a dick. I wouldn't hate you so much if you didn't have so much hair. Sorry, Kronos. In Tennessee, they've got Sputnik Monroe. He helped to break racism in that state. I don't know who Sputnik Monroe is, to be honest with you. Never heard that name. I think the difference is that the South had to confront more directly in its past, whereas other parts of the country had largely ignored it. Exactly right, Christopher. Exactly right. It's just projecting by the liberal suburbanites. I'm not sure exactly what you mean there. Darth Maul says, "Enter Miss Enter is way more than any hooker. It's an insult to her and you." It is, but that's what we got when we lived in California. We got that on a daily basis, and it was Mrs. Antrecker was used to, like, if she was driving anywhere, she would have the cops following her very, very closely. If she went to a store, the security guards would be keeping an eye on her. That's just how it is in the rest of the country. Now, I will say this. The last time we visited Oregon, it was actually much better. Although my theory is it's because everybody in Oregon is now smoking weed all the time, and so they're so mellow that they don't have time to worry about it. Bob Mike says, the reason I said that is because having lived in California, I never noticed or saw it. In the last few years, I've been called a race traitor for being in a mixed race relationship. Yeah, well, that's California for you. It's hidden until it's not. I've seen plenty of racism in California. Hey, thought she was a hook. They thought she was a hooker. You sure it wasn't because they were confused how such a beautiful woman and she was kidnapped by you? No. Well, the thing is, from a distance and at night, they could just see that she was black and I was white. Phantom Menace says CNN HQ gets vandalized by the riots and they're surprised that they're not immune. Same with celebrity. It's actually very funny in a way and sad as well. Here's the thing: these crazy these crazy left wingers that are in production, like CNN and actors and stuff like that are encouraging all this crap. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to disparage the guy, but Manu, who was on my show, right, the actor that played Ichep, he posted a video on Twitter about how awesome it is to watch all these people destroying capitalism. Sorry, Manu. You might think it's awesome, and it's real easy to sit there in your nice car and go back to your nice place in the Hollywood Hills and say how awesome it is that they're destroying capitalism. But there are people that are suffering because of this. And you might think that suffering is well-deserved because, those evil people made evil money. But then why don't you turn over all of your money? And they actually believe that all these rioters, not the protesters, but the rioters, are doing it for the cause. They really believe that these people are good, righteous people that are trying to help. No, they're thugs. Every single person that picks up a rock or a bottle or loots are thugs. And they are not doing it because of an incident that happened involving the police killing someone. It happened because they saw a protest and were like, hey, I can get my looting on. Christopher says the largest center of the slave trade in this country in the early 19th century was Boston, not Charleston, but nobody remembers that. Of course not. And actually, on the West Coast, the largest human trafficking ring in the history of this country was in Portland, Oregon. Tour the underground. If you're ever in Portland, Oregon, or if you live there, and I know I have a few subscribers in Portland, do the underground tour of the Old Town area. It is absolutely scary to see the infrastructure that was set up as a combination effort of people in the human trafficking trade and the city of Portland working together to make more efficient human trafficking. It is absolutely scary. They actually had hotels in Portland where if you checked in and you were on the ground floor, while you were sleeping, a trap door would open and your bed would basically go poof, and you'd fall down into a cell where and of course, because you were asleep, you wouldn't have shoes on. Guess what? There's the bars in the cell, and then the area outside of the cell is like a soft dirt floor riddled with broken glass so that you can't walk out. If you try, you slice up your foot. And then guess what? You were a slave. Congratulations. Darren says, oh, I can say mean things about the Navy. Don't you worry. I know you could. Competition and rivalry between the branches is to be expected and is normal and healthy. I agree. And you know, Darren, I'm glad that you are my favorite seaman. So the South was able to deal more directly with them, and the North was not. Maybe on the surface they did, but not completely. And the North and the free states are dealing with it now. I agree. Val says, remember, I have family in the South and visit quite often. My grandpa was harassed some of his neighbors for hiring Mexican and black laborers when white needs more work. Well, when you say your grandpa, when are we talking about? Are we talking about 30 years ago, or are we talking about last Tuesday? If anyone wants to protest on Antrager's lawn, Charmin will be provided and hand sanitizer. Oh, wow. Toilet paper and hand sanitizer at the protests on my lawn. Very nice. Luke is here. Luke Fovark is now Luke of Paris. Good to see you, Luke. Etcher, hey, man, not dead. Still have a cough. Doesn't want to go. I am so glad you are still kicking, my friend. And I love the new name. But welcome, Luke. Sorry it took me so long to get to your chat because, man, I'm having trouble keeping up. But, Luke, I am praying for you. I cannot wait until you're feeling better and we can argue some more because I miss our arguments. I truly do. So welcome to the land of the living, my friend. Alexander says Tennessee was the first place in the South where sport events stopped being segregated because of Sputnik Monroe. He refused to wrestle until the moment they stopped the crow nest concept. I do know that Tennessee was on the cusp of that kind of thing, but I don't know the story of Sputnik Monroe. I like fried chicken and watermelon, trigger. So what? I like fried chicken. I'm not a big fan of watermelon, but I do love me some fried chicken, which is part of the reason that I'm so dang fat, which, you know, I'm working on. Going into phase 2 of the diet today. Let's see. Not sure what that was. Messages. That's not it. Twitter. And oh, very cool. Now that is beautiful, I gotta say. So the artist and I don't know what is Bird, you're in the house. I can't. What's the name of the artist that creates those images, that created the image of you and the image of me that we're using now? He's actually just sent me what we're going to be using for on Life with Matthew. As you guys know, does a joint series with me. In fact, I'm working on editing the next one where we like do the good and the bad of certain shows and stuff. So I present to you Life with Matthew. There he is. And notice the fluffy bottom right there in his hand. So there's Life with Matthew. Love that image. So that's going to be on the future videos of our joint efforts. Just let's see. All right. So back to it. And File Mike's taking off. Have a good one, my friend. Chrono says, you almost called me a jerk. I almost did many times. See how behind you are in the chat? I typed the 64 minutes in. Oh, I see. Well, you typed that at 10:14. It's now 10:25. I'm about 10 minutes behind, which could be worse. Hey, how are you? Says Zachary. Some good news. My furlough ends next week. Excellent. Phantom Menace says, if the cop gets off, then the crowd may hang him from a tree called mob justice. It's hard to save him from that, or am I wrong? I don't think he's getting off. I don't, because here's the thing. Now, let me look, because he's in, I believe, Minnesota, right? And let's see, what is Murder 3? Okay, so... All right, so here's what he is accused of. Whoever, without intent to effect the death of a person, causes the death of a person by perpetrating an act eminently dangerous to others and evincing a depraved mind without regard for human life is guilty of murder in the third degree. So basically, third-degree murder, according to Minnesota statute, is an unintentional murder, like he did not mean to kill him, but what he was doing was inherently dangerous and was the actions of a depraved mind. That is a perfect charge for what happened. And so I don't think that he has a chance of getting off there. Now, if he was charged with murder 1, sure, I could see why he would get off, because this was obviously not premeditated. Although the scary thing is now that when it comes out that they knew each other, you could actually go for a murder 1 charge. I'm guessing a splashdown landing, but I hear they're going to be at the ISS for a month. Sometime in July they return. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think they should do everybody send messages to Elon Musk that they need to get 8 masks for their return. It's Asuka. Sorry, I'm horrible with names in Star Wars, I admit. Fruity Pebbles cost $20 plus shipping for a 40-ounce box on the internet. That's completely insane. That is insane. Can't you just drive down here, Alexander, and buy up a bunch of Fruity Pebbles? Boba isn't a Mandalorian, and his armor is not Beskar, it's Durasteel. I think people forget that. Well, first of all, Tim, here's the problem with what you just said. And I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but this is 100% true. Show me anywhere in Star Wars, in the films, where that is established. Because it's not. That's all in novels and stuff like that. As far as Boba not being a Mandalorian, it's never said in the films where Boba... The only thing we know is Boba's a clone of Jango. Was Jango a Mandalorian? Well, we find out in The Mandalorian is only basically a following of the Mandalorian code. It has nothing to do with your species. So, is he a Mandalorian? I don't know. Does Boba believe in the code of the Mandalorians? Don't know. As far as what is his armor, Beskar or Durasteel? Don't know. They never say what the armor is made of. Not once they say, oh, that's some fine Beskar. No, it's Durasteel. Oh, sorry, my mistake, Chris says, brand name of your 3D printer. I have 2 of them. One is a Creality CR10 version 2, which is an FDM printer. That one I just replaced one of the sensors on it, so hopefully I can get that printing soon. The other is the Elegoo Mars, which is a resin printer, far superior quality prints, but also more expensive as far as, because you got to buy the resin for it, as opposed to in the Creality, you buy plastic and spools, which is much, much cheaper. However, I've been focusing mostly on the resin prints, because with the resin printer, I can make beautiful little ships that we'll be sending out to the patron supporters and stuff in the very near future. Hail, sell the tie to your stream. These aren't the droids you're looking for. Yes, these aren't. Brent, I already read that. Darth Rev says, Ahsoka and the Jedi Anakin Padawan is joining season 2. Okay. Ahsoka, the Jedi Anakin Padawan is joining season 2. I haven't heard that for sure, but if so, fine. I want to see some Force users. I'm cool with that. Do you ever think why racism is... do you ever think why racism is a thing in blue areas? Yes, because blue areas are full of people that believe that they are above such things, so it festers. So, yeah. Pianodean says, did you and I live in Oregon at the same time? I lived there briefly from August 2000 to December 2000. I lived in Bend, went to Portland a few times. Let me think here. Joshua, I'm trying to think if we were in Oregon or California at that time. See, Joshua was born in June of 2000. In fact, Joshua's birthday is this coming Monday. But I believe Joshua was actually born in California. So I think we were actually in California at the time, Pianodean. So it's like we lived there before you were there. We lived there after you were there. I find CNN and MSNBC to be left of center and Fox to be right of center. Yes, that's a fair assessment. Sean say leftists do not have to destroy capitalism. The capitalists are doing a fine job without their help. Well, the thing is that people don't even understand capitalism. True capitalism doesn't even exist in the modern world. You know, we have basically what we have right now in the United States, at least, is an offshoot of fascism. But people won't use that word because they think fascism is a 4-letter word. But fascism is an economic system that we are currently living in. They are burning and looting wealthy areas, and the wealthy are panicking now. Actually, they're burning and looting areas that are some wealthy, some not. Speaking of slaves, when does Turkestan plan to rescue the orphan miners from Karoga? We're working on it. It's a tough one, I gotta say. Indy Tiger says, people are trying to defend looting as legitimate form of protest. Yes, and it is not, ever. Sorry. Looting and vandalism is not legitimate protest. Violence is not the answer, people. Let's see. You don't like watermelon? I'm not a big fan. I don't hate watermelon or anything. I'll eat it, but it's not my favorite. I'm a fried chicken fan, too. Not the watermelon so much. I also like grape soda and well-done steaks. Oh, really? Yeah. I hate well-done steaks. Steaks got to be bleeding in the middle. My girlfriend went to the hospital yesterday because she had a high temperature. Now it's better. She's home again. Well, that is good. What's a fluffy bottom? Well, you'll have to ask Bird of Prey 5 and Life with Matthew about that. Toilet paper is expensive. That is true. And let's see. Admiral Broco says, good morning. How are things so far? Hanging in there, my friend. You're showing up towards the end of the stream as always. But I am alive. To find someone in Lone Tree, Colorado, this is very important. Well, why Lone Tree, Colorado, Alexander? I mean, if you're just trying to get someone to send you some Fruity Pebbles, you know what you should do? You should just start live streaming and saying, hey, please, here's the address. Send me Fruity Pebbles. That'd be hilarious. I'll tell you what, Alexander. I'm absolutely serious about this. Alexander, I want you to do this. I want you to put together, if you have an address, like, I don't know if you have a P.O. box or something, because I don't want you to give out your home address on the internet. But if you have an address that people can send Fruity Pebbles to, I will make a public service announcement for asking people to send you Fruity Pebbles. And so what I want you to do is, don't put it in the chat right now. Send it to me with as a direct message. And I'll put something together for you. Mountain Alicia says, greetings, Anchor and fellow nerds. Hashtag free Auntie. Auntie is free. The independent autopsy found asphyxiation was the cause of death. I'm not surprised at all about that. The border is closed because of the quarantine. That's true. Well, but you can still ship items, I believe. But yeah, I didn't think about that. That's why Alexander can't just drive down and get it. Well, change the third. Well, change the, is. Well, the charge is third degree. If they went for first or second, he might get off. I'm almost 100% sure he doesn't get off, but now we need to charge the other officers as accessories. Well, I think the reason they've held off on charging the other officers is they want to see how the first trial goes. And if so, this is a smart move. So, for example, you know, you have crime committed by person 1, right? Meanwhile, person 2 is standing idly by and just observing while it's happening and not intervening, even though person 2 was in a position to and had a legal requirement to intervene. So person 1 kills the victim, and then person 1 goes to jail. If person 1 is convicted of manslaughter, you can't charge person 2 with accessory to murder. If person 1 is guilty of murder, you can't charge person 2 as accessory to manslaughter. You wait until you get the charge and the conviction on person 1 before you charge person 2. I think that's what they're doing. Let's see. It's always about films with you. There is non-movie canon stuff a lot that works great. That exists. You know what? Here's the problem. Is I understand there's a huge love affair with the extended universe stuff, and I'm not just talking about the stuff that was decanonized, but keep in mind, all that stuff was decanonized like that, right? They just said, oh yeah, the books, comics, gone. Doesn't count anymore. They could do that again. They could do that tomorrow. What they can't do is change the movies, right? The original Star Wars trilogy will always be the original Star Wars trilogy. The Skywalker saga, every movie from episode 1 through episode 9 is hard canon. You're not going to be able to break that. Okay? Everybody knows that story. And so you can't just willy-nilly mess with that. What you can willy-nilly mess with is anything that you got from Clone Wars, from books and stuff like that, because you have a much, much smaller audience. You know how many people care about Ashoka? Barely any compared to how many people care about Boba Fett. All right, so, you know, the fanboys will go, oh, look, Ahsoka, yay! However, 99% of the audience is like, who's the orange chick? Or whatever color she is. I think she's orange. The charge against the dirtbag cop is better. The charge against the dirtbag cop is better than nothing. But the cop was not at his first killing. There have been many complaints for police brutality. He should not be a cop. Well, here's the thing. It only takes one murder charge to stick to ruin your whole day. So I wouldn't worry about it. Luke says, yeah, it's Ahsoka, not Ashoka. Ahsoka was an Indian emperor in the 3rd century. Luke, leave it to you to come up with some reference that you are just crazy. Boba's origins explain the Clone Wars series, and they make a reference to it in Star Wars Rebels as well. Yes, neither of which are the movies. And I understand that there's a lot of love for the Clone Wars series out there and Rebels and all that, but those are kids' shows. And your mainstream Star Wars audience doesn't give a crap about them, and neither do the writers of these Star Wars movies. That's the point. Is that it doesn't matter what I think or what you think. What matters is what the general audience thinks, and most importantly, what the writers think. And the writers do not give a crap about whether or not there's some reference to Durasteel in the Clone Wars. What they care about is people love Boba Fett. Let's bring back Boba Fett. Hey, he's a Mandalorian too. All right, cool. Hey, you know, and that's what they're going to do. I really doubt you're going to have, and don't get me wrong, it's possible, but I have my doubts that there is anybody at Lucasfilm that is going to comb through the books and the kids shows to try and make sure that Boba fits canon perfectly. Can you 3D print food? I cannot. Durasteel, so in the future, AutoZone makes armors to go with their Duralast tools. Yes, indeed. Chrono says, good for Joshua's birthday. Yes. So how accurate is a documentary series? How accurate a documentary series is Portlandia? The first season of Portlandia is 100% accurate. Portland is the place where 20-year-olds go to retire. That is the absolute truth. However, unfortunately, since the airing of Portlandia, Portland has gone to crap. It is really fallen apart. The city is littered with homeless camps everywhere you go. It is just sad to see. The traffic is horrible. I feel bad. But yes, Portlandia is a very accurate depiction of the people of Portland. Well, I stayed with a friend for a couple of months in San Ramon, California during the summer of 2000. So we're still, oh yeah, San Ramon. Happy birthday to Joshua, says Indy. Well, you know what? We'll have to all say happy birthday to Joshua on Monday the 8th. That is his actual birthday. Bird of Prey 5 says, I have nothing to do with fluffy bottoms. Lies, all lies. Luke says, I think you confuse the economic fascism with the corporate capitalism. Both are definitely forms of capitalism there. Well, here's the thing, Luke. What I'm saying is, like, there's what people say, when people say capitalism, that has a certain connotation to it. Capitalism is basically free enterprise, right? And that companies can buy and sell goods as they see fit. And the profit motive is what drives the economy. In fascism, you have the and Arvik puts in $5. Thank you so much.
I got him! Great kid! Don't get cocky!
Is this new animated Trek supposed to be canon? Blay.
I genuinely do not know if they expect Lower Decks to be considered actual canon or not. If they do, and it's just some stupid cheesy kids show, then I'm going to ignore it faster than I would ignore any of the kids shows for Star Wars, right? I'm going to ignore it faster than I would ignore the Battle for Endor. But if it's good, it's good. But you know, I'm not going to worry about just like with the original animated series, that's kind of soft canon. We can make references to it, but there are things in the animated series that clearly contradict everything else. Anyway, back to what Luke was saying. So I think that what people confuse, fascism at its core is a government-controlled capitalism, right? Is that the government actually regulates capitalism to the point where it's almost a controlled economy. And that is what we have in the United States. If Alexander wants to buy Fruity Pebbles, he can just toss some sugar in his mouth. Same difference. Well, pretty true. With that fascism comment, I'll bet your stream is demonetized. Probably. Admiral Brokeout says, I live in British Columbia, Canada, so maybe a different times difference between us. LOL, it's 8:30 a.m. for me. Yes, it is 10:40 for me right now. Lone Tree, Colorado isn't for Fruity Pebbles. This is two different things, but I'm glad to help about. But I'm glad for the help about the Fruity Pebbles. Didn't know Lone Tree was something else. I shall ban him for the sin of liking well-done steaks. I'm kidding. Why are you kidding? I'm not. Ban him. No, I'm kidding. Sort of. Let's see. Chronos says, Bird of Prey, my bad. I meant anti-checker. Don't know what you were talking about there. You refuse to give animated works a chance even though they're quite good. Why? I didn't say I don't give them a chance. Look, I've watched the first 2.5 seasons of Clone Wars. It's not horrible. Don't get me wrong. But do I consider this to be the hard canon of Star Wars? No. And if it was, then it's inconsistent with what we've seen and everything else. I know some people really like it because they like Anakin's character better in it than he was in the films. But Anakin was supposed to be a whiny little bitch. I'm sorry. You know, that's what they were going for. But I'm not saying that the Clone Wars show is bad. I haven't seen Rebels yet. I don't know if it's any good or not. But as far as the writers are concerned, is that going to be their top priority? Is matching things up to Clone Wars? No, they don't give a crap about Clone Wars. It's a kids show. What they're going to give a crap about is keeping it in line with the films, because that's what the majority of their audience loves. And don't get me wrong, you guys could throw canonical arguments at me all day long, and I acknowledge the fact that they say it's canon, but it's not. That's the problem. Tim says they can change the movies. JJ Star Trek vs. New Hope, Lucas cut version 16, hand shot after Greedo shoots him 12 times, sips a beer and reads War and Peace. Well, first of all, as far as the JJ verse, that does not change. That was not a retcon, so to speak. The JJ verse was an alternate reality, and they even said it was an alternate reality in the movie. Right? They actually came up with an in-universe explanation as to why there are two different universes. That's fine. As for the specialized editions of Star Wars where Lucas kept tweaking little things, okay, is it canon now that Tatooine is riddled with stormtroopers riding giant lizards around? Technically, yes. Does that change the story? No. Not at all. Is it important? No. The Han shot first thing. Is it an insult to Han's character to make Greedo shoot first? Especially considering, so Greedo is this badass bounty hunter that can't shoot someone that's literally sitting across the table from him. It's lame, right? And that was just stupid. However, all that being said, it didn't change the story significantly. It was just bad. It was a bad moment, but it's not like he said, oh, well, we're going to redo it to where the Death Star blows up the Rebel base. That would change canon. Chrono says, I'm a kid at heart. Aren't we all? It's a cartoon for children, according to Andy Traeger. Oof. You know what? It is. I'm sorry, you may not like me saying that, but that's the truth. That's what it was marketed for. It was marketed to try and sell toys. And you know what? Is there death in the cartoon? Sure. But is it a kid's show? Absolutely. If you don't believe me, look at the freaking behaviors of various characters in it compared to their behaviors in the movies. There used to be someone that was a Lucasfilm Con Pablo Hidalgo, and now he's a show. I know that name, but I can't remember for what. The only difference between man and boys is the price of their toys. Star Wars movies are for grown-up kids. I would say, well, I think that there's actually, the funny thing about Star Wars is that they sell to both young and old. Star Trek had Michael Okuda as their lore master. Things are sad now. Yes, they are. Zachary says, I live in Florida, so I want to retire as far north as North Carolina. Nice. Joshua's birthday next week. Again, he got one last year. You are spoiling him. He got one again. He got one last year. You're spoiling him. I know. We're too nice to him. By the way, if you want to, and I'm absolutely serious about this, if you guys want to chip in for a birthday present for Joshua, we'll talk on. I'll probably put something up, but basically, I know what Joshua wants, and you guys can all chip in, because what he wants is basically money on Steam, and I think you can give people like virtual gift cards on Steam, and so I'll get his Steam information so that anybody could give him something if they want to for his birthday as a thank you for all the great animations that he's provided you. You don't have to, of course, but I'll probably be talking about that in the next few days. Capitalism is the accumulation of capital based on the ownership of the means of production. And Sean says, no, capitalism is about capital. That is, those who invest in business make all the decisions. You can have free market without capitalism. Okay. Sassy barked and they left. Not sure who. Oh, police pulled up in front of the house. Oh, too bad. Darn it, they didn't get him. Luke says, capitalism has never been incompatible with regulation. Regulation is not full control either. You seem to conflate capitalism in general with laissez-faire capitalism in particular. Well, laissez-faire capitalism is really purist capitalism. And there's a difference between basic regulation, and this is the problem that many people like myself have with modern fascist capitalism, is that regulation for prevention of fraud, prevention of, say, overt pollution, stuff like safety protocols, that's all fine and dandy. But when you start, and this is not a joke, Luke, and because, I worked for Comcast for many years, when the state tells the cable company what channels they have to include, how much the packages cost and all that, and then when people bitch about the cost of cable, they throw the cable companies under the bus and say how horrible they are. That's fascism, right? When the state tells, and this actually happened in the great state of Oregon. It was a regulation that was established way back, like in the early 20th century, that in order to be more efficient when it comes to forestry, when loggers came in to get trees for lumbering purposes, they had to clear cut the area. They could not just selectively cut the trees they wanted, which is what the logging companies used to do, is selective cutting, where they would cut, oh, that's a good tree for using for lumber, we'll cut that one down, we'll let the rest of the trees grow. And they changed it to a clear cut policy. This was forced on them by the government. Then fast forward like 60 years, and Bill Clinton goes on a campaign against the timber industry because of their evil practice of clear cutting. They were clear cutting because the federal government said they had to. And then the federal government turns around and blames them because they're doing what the federal government told them to do. That is not capitalism. Alexander says, Lone Tree, Colorado is for a specific type of collection. No idea what you're talking about there. And sorry if the kids show comment pissed you off, Bradley, but here's the thing. I'm not trying to suggest that it's stupid. I mean, after all, Star Trek the Animated Series was a kids show. And it's a very intelligent, very well written, and wonderful show that I enjoy watching to this day. But I'm talking about if you're looking at from the writing staff, if you're the Lucas executive making the big decisions about what you're going to do as far as the future of The Mandalorian and stuff like that. So you're Jon Favreau and you're working on Mandalorian Season 2. And you're saying, hey, you know what people would love if we brought in Boba Fett as a rival Mandalorian in Season 2. And then, but then someone says, but wait, he's not technically a Mandalorian. They never said that in the movies. We're going to go with it. Why? Because that's what sells. That's what works. Are they going to take into account a kid's show that does contradict what they're saying if the movies don't? The answer is no. And you see it over and over. Joseph says, I used to admire the U.S. I don't anymore. The more I spend with you, my YouTube friends, the less appealing it seems to me. Wow, Joseph, that was a deep dig. Sci-Fi says, you don't see Star Wars Rebels. It's pure cheesy and massive kid-friendly show. I have not seen that one yet. I don't debate canon. I shoot people with them in video games. Got to clarify that. I like the Super Duper Star Destroyer in The Force Awakens. I didn't. Did you ever watch Robotech back in the day? You should try resin printing some of their mecha. I have not, but the thing is, I'm not going to print things that are not, like, even though, yes, like, this is not my work, this model. But as far as the stuff that I'm going to be putting out regularly for you guys, I'm not going to print things that are someone else's work, because that is theft. I got the Dr. Doom card, the Overpower CCG collectible card game, I assume. Now my deck is named Hall of Fame Evil is ready. The Joker, Lex Luthor, Red Skull, and Dr. Doom are united. I don't know what that game is, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to have the Joker, Lex Luthor, Red Skull, and Dr. Doom together.
Hello, world.
I got him! Great kid! Don't get cocky!
Kronos wants to be called a jerk. So do I. Number 2.
Joseph, you're a Slovakian.
I'm a better female character than you. You would be if you didn't spend all your time with that temper tantrum meme guy. At least I'm not the one on a show with a questionable acronym. Take it back. No, 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 yes,
no,
yes,
no,
yes,
no,
yes,
no,
yes,
no,
yes,
no,
yes. Oops. Sorry to bother you.
There you go, Joseph. See? And I being called you a Slovak. You know what? You are a jerk, Joseph, but I love you. Let's see. Crow says, you have a lot of problems. I do? I guess I do. Why don't you run? Oh, never mind. I'm not sure why you're saying that. The state told broadcast companies what to do because radio frequencies are scarce resources. That mindset was extended to cover cable. That might be some of the underlying reasoning behind it, but it's still BS. And here's the thing, and this is why I get upset about it. So the cable companies are regulated as to what channels they have to offer and how much they have to charge for their packages. So then people bitch about the fact that cable companies offer these packages and they'd rather get their channels a la carte. And so then you have politicians, ignorant politicians, say, you're right, those horrible cable companies, they should care about their customers. Yeah, you're the one forcing them to do what they're doing. So don't sit there and tell me about how wonderful and righteous regulation is. Anyway, but the thing is that bandwidth is not an issue. I mean, like, the cable company currently offers like 500 plus channels, and they could do 500 more if they wanted to. It's not that difficult. With the advent of newer technologies like 5G, the same thing is going to be true of wireless communications. Satellite doesn't have a bandwidth issue. You don't have bandwidth issues. Maybe in the earliest days of broadcasting, there were bandwidth issues, but there aren't anymore. So can we please get past these archaic regulations that may have had a certain amount of logic in 1950? I don't think like Hollyweird. I know you don't, Kronos. Boba Fett's definitely reached out to kids, Andrew, but they can't brush past how he survived the Sarlacc pit. I agree. They're going to have to come up with a story on that, and I personally don't want to see Boba Fett come back. As far as I'm concerned, he died in the Sarlacc pit. But then again, as far as I'm concerned, Darth Maul died, in the fight with Obi-Wan until they suddenly brought him back in Solo. So now I guess it's hard canon that he's alive. But are they going to follow the storyline that happened in in Clone Wars, or are we going to see, like, if they ever get around to producing the Obi-Wan series or something, are we going to have an Obi-Wan Darth Maul duel where Darth Maul dies, right? I think you're missing part of the Dave Filoni was responsible with the Clone Wars series, and John F. and Dave Filoni are doing the Mandalorian series. We shall see. We shall see. And I know Dave Filoni cares about the canonical accuracy of Star Wars, but ultimately, whatever puts coins in their pockets is going to trump hard canon. I watch animated shows a lot, and I'll say this. They're often written 1,000 times better than the live-action filth we get these days. Well, I don't like too many modern shows, so I would probably agree with you. Don't do Robotech stuff. Trust me, Harmony Gold are a-holes when it comes to chokeholded IP. Yeah, so I'm not going to... I don't want to just steal other people's stuff anyway. Federal executive branch of the government passes laws that they know will be challenged in court. The executive branch expect the judicial branch to make sense of nonsense. Well, actually, you're confusing the executive branch and the legislative branch, though. If executive branch does not pass laws, the executive branch or the legislative branch does. The executive branch is the president of the United States. Macross is better than the crappy cut and paste show that is Robotech. I have not seen either. And JP puts in 5 Canadian bucks. Thank you.
I got him! Great kid! Don't get cocky!
Cornos and Joseph are jerks. Time to bop some seals.
Yes, indeed.
In Quebec, raccoons are everywhere. You know, they get in the garbage cans and they pull off the cans and they go yum 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 yum. It's pastime. It's our culture. The dingoes to fight the raccoon, big moose with the big ears, all moosey, 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 moosey. And we take
moosey, moosey, moosey. All shows that broke canon. That's great. I'm not sure what you mean there. Look out. Valerie says, have you ever thought about making an intricate chess set? Yes. I'm a dummy, I know, but please explain Meme Guy in Super Chat too. Meme Guy talking about Kylo Ren, how Kylo Ren became very popular in memes, especially when they showed him without a shirt. Chrono says, you don't know me! And Valor says, I meant making, not macking. Yeah, I think I got that. Chip says, wait a minute, you don't approve regulation in communications, but you do in education? I'm confused. Okay, so education, I do not believe, and this is just my own personal belief, I do not believe belongs in the private sector, because I do believe, and this does require a constitutional amendment, but I do believe that getting an education is a right. And you should not have the private sector educating people, because education, it is absolutely vital that everybody gets an equal shot at a good education, and right now they don't. If you live in an area that is less financially affluent, you will get a lesser education, and that is wrong, and that needs to be corrected. Now, as far as communications, as when you're talking about entertainment, do I believe that the government needs to regulate entertainment? No. Luke says, is the control you're talking about based on practice regulations initially designed to protect customers and small businesses, or what? When regulation is bad, it does look like... Well, yeah. Well, the thing is, yeah, we have a lot of regulation, and this is a big problem. I don't know how it is in France. I genuinely don't. But one of the problems we have in the United States right now is that Congress and state legislatures just cannot say, oh, this works. They have to constantly produce more and more and more regulation. They have to constantly put more laws into place. There are companies, including the one that I currently work for, that have whole teams of people whose sole job is to try and make the business comply with these regulations, and most of these regulations are pointless. There are regulations, for example, in the company that I work for, we bill our customers. And the federal government regulates what font we use, the arrangement of the bill, how we tally the numbers, how we break it down on page 1, on page 2, and page 3. You know what? Just let us bill our freaking customers. But no, they can't do that. And Yosef says she pronounced my name correctly. Did she? Let's see. I can replay the super chat.
I got him! Great kid! Don't get cocky.
Oh, you're not going to read it this time? Let's try it again. No, it's not going to do it now? Wow. Well, sorry. Guess we're not going to be able to find out. Phantom says, actually, in Rebels, I think it was Darth Maul is killed by Obi-Wan permanently this time. Yeah, I know. But the problem is that now, since they brought Darth Maul in at the end of Solo, what are they going to do? Are they going to just say, oh, yeah, and he was killed by Obi-Wan Kenobi in the cartoon? Or are they going to bring him in and have him die again? Luke says, never infer repression when you can deduce incompetence. Well, I'll give you that much. Yo says, I agree that you're on education, being a teacher myself. I didn't know you were a teacher. What technology will come out of the SpaceX or Space Force, do you think, on the civilian side? It depends. I mean, there's a lot of stuff comes from space research and stuff. Lighter materials, stronger materials, better computers, stuff like that. I don't know. Hopefully, flying cars. I want my flying car. But in your comments about communication industry, what's to stop the government from making poor decisions in education like they make in the communications industry? Well, nothing. But you know what? I would rather have a neutral body that is not and this is where I'm going to agree with my far left friends here. I do not want education to be a profit motive. The motive of education needs to be education, not profit, period. And so, and if you have a bunch of different schools teaching different curriculums, trying to compete with other schools, then all you're doing is setting it up so that people will go to the school that's got the best education, which sounds great until you realize that those schools are going to cost twice as much to get into, which means, once again, rich people will be able to get good education, poor people will be stuck with crap. That ain't okay. Education needs to be truly equal. I'm sorry. And I know that some people think that, oh, no, you're going against the line as far as conservatives. Yeah, you're right. Because I'm not a conservative and I'm not a liberal. I'm a person that just looks at the issue and says, what's the best solution? I'm sick of this BS of people that are Republicans and people that are Democrats sitting there preaching whatever the gospel of their party is. And not stopping to think about the actual impact of what they're trying to do. On the surface, conservatism, reduced government, a free market, those are good things, but that doesn't mean you take that approach to absolutely every problem. This is the idiocy of our party system. Instead, you need to approach each problem as it is. What is the problem? What is the ultimate goal? And how do we achieve that goal? If the problem is education, the ultimate goal is that we want all children to get an equal education. You know what the solution isn't? Having every state do it their own way. You know what the solution isn't? Just hand it to the private sector. If the ultimate goal is that every kid must get an equal education, it has to be at the federal level. It absolutely has to. And nobody wants to deal with that because, oh my God, it flies in the face of my ideology. Well, I'm not an ideologue. The government needs to regulate radio because if it doesn't, everyone will be broadcasting all over the place and interfering with others. You know what? I don't buy that. First of all, the only thing the government needs to do as far as regulating radio is what the FCC already does as far as allocate certain frequencies to certain companies, that you get a license to broadcast in a certain radius on a certain frequency. So 97.8 is yours because you have that license. That I'm fine with. But you know what? As far as the content, they can broadcast whatever the hell they want. And I know that's, oh my God, some people put up naughty words and stuff. You're right. How is it in France? Did you see H2G2 in the movies? Remember the administration of the Vogon planet? Sometimes I feel like that's the French administration. So you're Vogons. Okay, that makes sense. Sean says, the government regulates cable because the government granted the right way to the cable companies. But that doesn't, you know what? You don't regulate just because. Yeah, oh, well, you got it right away, so we're going to tell you what packages to offer. No, you know what you could do? You could say, okay, we're going to grant you the right of way, but you have to include for free this channel, and this channel, and that's what gets you your right of way. Period. But you don't say, here's what your package is going to be, here's going to be what your price plan is going to be, here's how you're going to sell channels. No. You could say, you know, like, for example, if you know, we don't really do public access anymore, but if there were public access channels and stuff, you say, okay, you have to carry the public access for free, you have to carry the local networks for free, whatever you want to require, and all that's free to anybody. But then if you want to get more than that, then you got to, you know, pay for a package or a la carte. But you don't tell them, okay, here's how much you get to charge for each package, and here's what channels they have to include. A university degree as a teacher, did that for 5 years. Right, wouldn't have guessed that, Joseph. We're supposed to be having flying cars for 2015, according to BTDF, but that didn't happen. I'm not holding my breath. I know, I want my flying car. Do you wish to be whoever you want to... So you wish to be whoever you want to be? Yes. Look out there. So if you want that, government needs to deregulate out of the system. High government regulation is... Wait. If you want that, then government needs to deregulate out of the system. High government regulation is a negative. I'm not sure exactly what you mean there, but I'll say okay. Tim says, as you're ranting about the party system, I thought of something. You need a special super chat that would put an exploding volcano over your head. I might actually donate to. And Matt put in a $1.49 and a unicorn, or what are they, a doomacorn? Is that what Doomcock calls them? Thank you so much, Matt. I refuse to participate in an education system that puts you so deeply in debt to achieve good education because somewhat successful in life. It's horrible the way it is right now. It is absolutely horrible. And the education system, you know, first of all, and I know this is tough, but you have to write it out, and it's you're gonna have to create a true, you know, forget about the old Department of Education. You have to create a new Department of Education. This department is going to have a mandate that, okay, this is not going to be indoctrination. This is not going to be social manipulation. All right, that's not what the goal of education is. The goal of education is to teach kids the skills and knowledge they need to succeed in life. So they need to understand, you know, the English language. They could learn, you know, you can have a typical electives like foreign languages and stuff like that. You need to have, you know, a very heavy emphasis on mathematics and science. You need to have, you know, all this good stuff. But you know what you don't do? You don't start teaching about religion. You know, you don't start teaching about, you can have a civics class where you talk about the structure of the government. You do not talk about the political parties. And, you know, that kind of thing. That's, so I think that it can be done. Jeff reminds people to vote for the Crystal Skull. Indeed, you should. And with that, though, I am going to wrap it up, guys, because I do need to work in just a few minutes. So thank you all for hanging out with me. But you guys are the best. I absolutely mean that. I love each and every one of you. Don't forget, we're going to put together something for Joshua here. Please, if you can, when I get that set, I would really appreciate it. You don't have to, you know, I'm not asking you guys to give a fortune or anything. I don't know how the Steam system works as far as gifting, but we're going to try to do something for him, all right? So take care, guys, and I will see about the volcano. We'll have to figure something out there. But have a good one.
Making your way with the nerve. Taking a break from hating JJ sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to just get laid? Sometimes you wanna go where all the Trekkies know your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna be in a galaxy where Star Trek isn't lame. You wanna go where everybody knows your name. Turds of a feather flock together, that's what we believe. We know a place that's got you covered, a place to get relief. Wouldn't you like to say me poo? Sometimes you wanna go where turn steadies know your name, and all Kurogans are to blame. You wanna be where you can see Kuroga go up in flames. You wanna go where everybody knows your name.
You son of a bitch, anti-tracker!